Welcome back to another video on the channel. With the first Grand Slam of the 2022 season just a matter of weeks away from starting, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to try and predict the winners of all 4 Grand Slams next season. So as we all know by now, Novak Djokovic largely dominated the 2021 Grand Slams, winning the Australian Open, French Open and Wimbledon, before Daniil Medvedev deservedly claimed his maiden major title, beating Novak Djokovic in the US Open final. So I'm going to start off at the Australian Open, and I'm going to predict Novak Djokovic to win his 10th title in Melbourne and record-breaking 21st Grand Slam title if he does turn up at the Australian Open. That's the big question. I said the other day I'd be absolutely amazed if Djokovic skipped the opportunity to complete those feats, but he's yet to confirm his status for the Australian Open, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that in the next few days. I think it's fair to say, if Djokovic turns up the Australian Open, he has to head in as a heavy, heavy favourite. Winning the title 9 times, he always aims to kick off the years with a Grand Slam win, and he's done that on so many occasions, playing some outrageously good tennis. I think Djokovic is undoubtedly the greatest hardcore player of all time, and I think this year as well he's going to sense the opportunity with Rafa Nadal and Dominic Thiem still having to prove their fitness after long injury layoffs. Roger Federer obviously missing the tournament. Andy Murray's still seemingly on the comeback trail and not yet ready to compete completely at Grand Slams and look to get into finals. Stefanos Tsitsipas may miss the event with an elbow injury. So other than the likes of Daniil Medvedev and Alexander Zverev, it's very difficult to see Djokovic being stopped in Melbourne. And with the Djokovic that played in 2021, full of confidence, ruthless, aggressive tennis, serving as good as ever, it's very difficult to see anybody stopping Novak Djokovic. However, if anyone can, Daniil Medvedev shown he is the man. At the 2021 Australian Open final, Djokovic humbled him 3 sets to love. When the US Open final was repeat the revenge, I was mightily impressed by not only Daniil Medvedev's performance, but also the mental shift. Facing the greatest ever hardcore player after losing the final a few months previous, 3 sets to love. Medvedev could have easily went in his shadow and not produced his best, but he went out there believing he was the best player in the world and believing he had the beat of Novak Djokovic and played an outstanding match, bossed the big moments, and fully deserved to win his maiden major title. And Medvedev's a huge threat now. He's no doubt the second best player in the world. I think he's a player that believes he's going to be world number 1 at the end of 2022 and go on to become one of the greatest in the sport and win multiple major titles. And at the moment, I certainly wouldn't write off Daniil Medvedev from doing that. He's a player in full form, and I expect him to hit the ground running in 2022 at the Australian Open. We know he's such a good hardcore player. In terms of an outsider, I looked at Carlos Alcaraz, and I think Carlos Alcaraz is going to be an absolute monster in the future. For a player just 18 years old, the speed, the fight, the spirit, the variety, the power of his game, he just looks all set to be a Grand Slam champion, future world number 1, and that might be lofty expectations, but I haven't been as excited about a teenage tennis player as Carlos Alcaraz ever, I don't think. We saw last year in the US Open when he defeated Stefanos Tsitsipas at just 17 years old that he's born for the big stage. He gets the crowd on his side with the entertainment and his fight that he shows on court, and I think nobody will want to play Carlos Alcaraz in a Grand Slam next year because in particular, the Australian Open, French Open, when he's going to be fresh after a break, he's going to be hugely dangerous and he's going to climb the rankings very quickly. So I think Carlos Alcaraz will have very strong performances next year in the Grand Slams and the biggest stages, and watch out for him at the Australian Open. Moving on to the French Open, and I know immediately people are going to look at this page and say, where's Rafa Nadal? And I didn't put Rafa Nadal in this simply because he has to prove his fitness after a long injury layoff. And personally, I don't think we've seen Rafa anywhere near his best for a good couple of years now. I think his last top vintage Rafa performance was the 2020 French Open final against Djokovic, where he lost just 7 games. Since then, I think Rafa's played some very good tennis worthy enough to beat some of the top 10 players in the world. But I don't think it's been vintage Rafa and Rafa anywhere near his absolute best. After a long injury layoff with the foot problem, Rafa's got to prove his fitness to me and prove that he can get somewhere back near his best, and showing the form why he's won 13 French Open titles in 20 majors. So my personal choice for champion of 2022 French Open at the moment is Dominic Thiem. He also has to prove his fitness, but Dominic Thiem's a lot younger than what Rafa is. He was in fantastic form before breaking his wrist, which was a very unfortunate injury for him. And he probably would have had his name twice in this trophy before if he didn't bump into the greatest ever clay court player in Rafa Nadal in 2 finals. Dominic Thiem is an absolute beast on the clay courts. You know, he's got a very top spin heavy backhand. He doesn't mind playing the high bouncing balls on the clay. He's got so much power and so much rip on his forehand and backhands to blast through the heavy clay courts, and he's just an outstanding clay court player. He said recently in an interview that he could probably play on a hard court and grass for, you know, a year or two and then step back on clay, and he would just be able to adjust and adapt and play straight in those conditions again. And not many players can say that. You know, clay is arguably the most difficult surface to play on, yet Dominic Thiem is at home on clay. And if Rafa wasn't quite at his best in that tournament, then I think, you know, Dominic Thiem would certainly be Novak Djokovic's main challenger. Runner-up, I think you've got to go with Djokovic. You know, he won the title last year. He won throughout the 4 slams. Although he hasn't, you know, dominated on clay, obviously, in the past 10 years, with that being Rafa Nadal, he's still won many Masters titles. He's won the French Open twice. He's the #1 player in the world. So Djokovic is going to prime himself for every Grand Slam now, particularly at the age he is. And, you know, if Djokovic turns up to Grand Slam in full health, it's going to be difficult not seeing him getting to the semi-finals and finals on most occasions, especially if he continues the form that he showed in 2021. And I think with Djokovic as well, he's really changed his style and adopted his tactics differently against the top players on clay in the past couple of years. I think when he was in his younger days, he tried to beat Rafa from the baseline, extreme, long, demanding matches. But I think Djokovic knows himself that in his legs, it's not the way to win now. He's improved his serve. He gets a lot more free points than what he used to do. He executes the drop shot a lot better than he used to. He's a lot better around the net, in my opinion, a lot more aggressive. And I think that's going to help him if he is to face the Nadal, as he showed last year in the French Open, or a Dominic Thiem. I think Djokovic has to be more aggressive and not get into the long baseline exchanges on a regular basis, because I think Thiem or Nadal would win that argument now against him. In terms of an outsider, I'm going to go with Casper Ruud, and I think he's a hugely exciting player. He's very consistent, very fit. Won over 50 matches last year on the ATP. I think he won the 3rd most amount of matches on the whole of the men's tour. He also won 4 clay court titles in 2021. He's at home on the surface, a very good mover. Got great variety, a great backhand slice. And yeah, I think Casper Ruud certainly want to watch next year in the clay courts. And if the likes of Tsitsipas or Nadal or Dominic Thiem weren't fully primed for that event, then Casper Ruud would certainly sense the opportunity, and he would be one of the leading contenders going into the tournament. Moving on to my personal favourite Grand Slam of the year, Wimbledon, being a Brit, and I'm going to back Novak Djokovic to win his 7th Wimbledon title. And Djokovic has won the last 3 versions of Wimbledon. Obviously, 2020 was missed due to the coronavirus pandemic, but Djokovic is at home at Wimbledon. He seems to just boss the event a majority of years now. Last year, he picked up the title very, very comfortably, albeit he did have a favourable draw, and the top names weren't there to battle against him. But he's just so good across every different surface now, Djokovic. You know, as I mentioned there, it's very important on grass that you have a very good serve, and Djokovic had albeit his best serving year in 2021, served a record amount of aces. His return to serve on grass is insanely good. Immediately puts him on the front foot in most rallies. And, you know, you don't need to talk about Novak Djokovic as to why he wins Grand Slams. He's won 20 of them, 6 Wimbledons. And without Roger Federer going to be there, it's looking very unlikely. Then Djokovic has to go into the grass season as a major favourite to clear up. Runner-up, I'm going to go Matteo Berrettini again. And I think Berrettini's got a game that's perfect for grass. You know, he's got a monster big serve. Fantastic forehand. I think he's improving defensively. His defensive movement's a lot better than he used to. I think he's a lot more patient. He used to be over-aggressive, but I think with maturity and experience and the likes of playing Djokovic and Medvedev and Zverev, who wear you down over time, I think Berrettini's starting to become more patient in the big matches and sees his opportunity. I think, you know, Berrettini, he counter punches a lot better than what he used to now. The backhand slice is a very effective shot and very useful to have at Wimbledon, which is why, albeit cruised to the final last year after winning the Queen's title as well. Unfortunately for him, he did bump into Novak Djokovic, who was just in the form of his life at the time, and it wouldn't at all surprise me to see Berrettini lifting the Wimbledon title one day, especially after Djokovic retires. When that will be, who knows? As an outsider, this is probably hard overhead. I'm going to go with Andy Murray, and I say this because a lot of the young players coming through haven't really had an opportunity to play the grass court season due to it being cancelled in 2020. The grass court season's a lot shorter, and a lot of European countries that don't really practice in the grass courts, they usually tend to play in the hard courts, or if you're in a warmer climate, the clay courts in the likes of Spain and France. So a lot of the younger players coming through are still adapting and learning how to play on the grass and, you know, be fully effective on the surface, whereas Andy Murray's won this title 2 times. He's grew up on the grass courts. And I think Murray's a player that, you know, he's getting back to full fitness. He's improving all the time. He's got championship winning experience. We all know Andy Murray was, you know, one of the very, very best players in the world when he unfortunately suffered the hip injury. And as I say, Andy's got the backing of the Wimbledon crowd. If he could make it through to the second week and be back into full fitness and Grand Slam winning fitness on his side, then write him off at your peril, because Andy's such a fighter. He's such a quality Grand Slam grass court player, and he'll have the crowd absolutely roaring him on. And if he could win a 3rd Wimbledon title after what he's come through, it would be an absolute magical achievement for him, and one of the probably greatest achievements we'll ever see in the sport. So moving on now to the 4th and final Grand Slam of the year, I'm going to pick Daniil Medvedev to defend his US Open title. As I mentioned last year, I thought he was by far and away the second best player in the world. I think the fact that he's now won the major after getting beat off Djokovic a couple of times and also Rafa Nadal in finals, I think it's a massive mental shift for him. He's moved ahead of Zverev and Tsitsipas in that debate. Now he's picked up a Grand Slam title. He was fully deserving to win that US Open. I thought he was by far the best player in the draw. To come past an albeit tired Novak Djokovic in the final, I think Medvedev still deserved huge credit for his performance and also his performances throughout 2022. I think he's just an absolute beast in the back of the court. He's very, very difficult to beat from the baseline. Counter punches excellently well. Very difficult to pass with his height and his reach. His first serve's exceptional, and he's become more aggressive over time. You know, I was critical of Medvedev a couple of years ago. I thought he was very, very strong at counter punching and defending, but could he move inside the court and finish points? And I think he always had to bring that side to his game if he was to win Grand Slam titles, but he'd done that. You know, he dominated Novak Djokovic at times in the US Open final from inside the baseline. Consistently beating the defense of Novak Djokovic in a hard court is very difficult, but Daniil Medvedev done it consistently, which just shows he's as good coming forward now, which is, as I said, very, very important if he does want to win multiple major titles. As a runner-up, I'm going to go with Alexander Zverev because, you know, Zverev won, 6 ATP titles last year. He had a very good year, especially in the hard courts, winning the Olympic gold, winning the ATP finals. So he's going to enter, 2022 with huge, huge confidence. And we haven't yet seen Zverev, in my opinion, play his absolute best tennis at a Grand Slam. You know, he's very good over the 3-set tournaments. He dominates a lot of them on the hard courts and the Masters events and the ATP finals. But he's yet to register a win over a top 10 player in a Grand Slam. You know, he should have won this tournament back in 2020 where he led Dominic Thiem 2-0. And with Zverev, I think it's just about putting it all together. You know, he has to have more conviction on the big points, in my opinion. I'm always critical of the fact that I think he waits for the opportunity and waits for mistakes from the likes of Medvedev and Djokovic, which simply don't come in Grand Slams. That's why they're Grand Slam champions, because they take risks, they take chances, and they execute on the big points. I think Zverev needs to have more belief in those moments. And I think if you could pick up a Grand Slam win against a Medvedev or a Djokovic, then he could quite easily win his first major title. But Zverev, there's still that cloud over his head with the forehand often going astray in the big moments, in tie breaks, and the double faults still creep up into his game in the big moments as well. But yeah, I think Zverev, he's not too far away from winning the Grand Slam, and if he could win one, or like I say, get a win over a Djokovic or a Medvedev, that could really kickstart his major career. Lastly, in terms of an outside, I'm going to go with Hubert Hurkacz, who won his maiden Masters title in Miami last year with some amazing performances, arguably his best year on the tour. Also gained a Grand Slam win over Roger Federer, so he's a man on the rise and he's full of confidence. He's very, very good on the fast hard courts in particular with his huge first serve. And with Hurkacz at Miami, I was very, very surprised by his all-round game. I think he's rallying capabilities now. He's consistent depth. He's double-handed backhand. He's a very, very strong all-round player. He used to just be not a one-trick pony, but he was very reliant on the serve and forehand. But I think he's so much more than that now, with the backhand down the line. And as I say, his ability to counter-punch and defend has definitely come on leaps and bounds. And the fact that he's won a Masters title now will probably give him so much more belief in himself that he can challenge the top players and potentially pick up a Grand Slam if one of the likes of Djokovic and Medvedev were to, drop out early. Hurkacz could be a player to take advantage of that. So that's my predictions for the next 4 Grand Slams in 2022. If you do have predictions of your own, do leave them in the comment section below. I do always enjoy reading those. If you have enjoyed it, please leave a like in the video. And if you do want to subscribe, I will be bringing more content on the channel very soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.